So welcome to Bunny's Designs. I wanted to show how I am priming a very cheap and cheerful canvas. It's a very thin one, and it's not a particularly good one. They come ready primed, but it's always a good idea to prime them again. But I'm using, this is a practice. I haven't painted for 5 years. I am completely out of practice. So if you really want to know how to do it, go and have a look at lots of YouTube videos of how to prime canvases. You can either use your own gesso. I use different primers. Lots of different artists do lots of different things. This is for a play. Oh, hi, Sanpan. Welcome to Bunny's Designs. Hi, Melody. So what you need to do is, again, I've got a 60p really cheap brush which won't go in the pot. I've got some quite old stinky cheap, very cheap gesso, which I've stirred, and again, I'm not going to throw it out. I'm going to put it on here. It's a play. This is a practice. So what you need to do is, you still need to dampen your brush, but what you also need to do is, and as you can see, it's actually sitting on top. This canvas has already been primed because this water is not going anywhere, but I am just going to give it, because if you do this, whether it's been done or not, and again, this is a real cheapie, it's been obviously primed with a plastic coating. It's probably been sprayed with a nasty plastic coating, but by wetting it, I'm probably going to give it a bit of a better chance. So if you wet the canvas with the brush across, and again, this is not how you do it, and I'm not doing the edges, that's how rough this is going to be. So that's got just about covered the entire thing. I should have done this with my new cardigan and my best top, but so all I'm going to do, because this is going to be difficult, so I'm actually just going to go in there with a palette knife and just kind of do as if I dunked the brush, and get it on there, and it's kind of watering it down quite a lot, and I've got hairs coming out the cheap brush. If you buy cheap brushes, the hairs will come out, but you can pick them off. This is to give it, it's to do two things. It's to get rid of the marks, because obviously it's been kicking about. In fact, I think somebody gave me these. So they're not precious. But you want a good even coat. So I'm just at the moment getting it all on. And then what you need to do is, you need to decide and go in one direction. So you need to go up and down, but you do need a nice flat coat. So this is not looking particularly brilliant, but it will pan out eventually. Now, some people use palette knives for this. If you can see, it's going to a nice. Now I want to go over the edges. I'm just not doing the edges, but I do want a nice. And splashing everywhere. Gesso shouldn't really do that. Right. So I think I've got enough on there. So when you've got a good, and this isn't the final one, so don't panic, you want to go in one direction, and you will have a few brush lines. Try to pick off the hairs and the bits. If it's old gesso, you will have bits, and the idea is you get finer and finer. But bearing in mind, we're going to cover this with oil paint anyway. But if you wanted very, 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 painting with I haven't got round the edge there. Look, painting with a dog hair kind. In fact, I'm going that way now. Picking out any bits that we don't want, any big bits. And if you paint with calico, you will get big bits, because it's the nature, it's natural. and you'll get little knot things in them. Doesn't matter, that makes the painting, but it depends how much you pay to pay. Some people pay on linen, which is perfect. So what I've got here is very, very roughly, I mean, I want to make a fairly decent job of it if I can, if I can remember. And you're probably better doing this outside than sitting down, but and you want to sit that in water really. So if I hold that up, there's just a few lines. There's a few lines. So that needs to dry. So I'm actually just going to take it outside because it's very warm outside and it's very cold in my room. So just bear with me 2 seconds, and I'm just going to bob it outside, talk about something else, and then by the time I come back we can give it another coat. Oh, sorry about that. Right, that's gone outside. That's gone outside to dry. Very quickly, my daughter's first play with Derwent Colour Soft. That's what she did when she was doing her exams at school. The colours were just out of this world, and that's the Derwent Colour Soft. My light's not brilliant because I'm playing about with the light. So I've been looking for that, and typical teenager, I don't know where it is, so I don't know what else she's done in here. But I wanted to show that. At least I've found it anyway, or she's found it. She's cleaning her bedroom up. So we've got newspaper. Excuse me. So I bought these brushes because most of mine are kind of really, really oldie. I'll talk about those in a second. So if you want to do this, oopsie, in acrylics, you can use the Stay Wet palette. And I actually have this one, which I quite like. Now, when I did my degree, I actually worked in one like this. It was a bit small and it was quite old. I'd had it about 20 years, but I found this one half price, so I bought it, and then it's been tucked away. So these are both Stay Wet palettes. This one probably is a bit better because it's got a clip onto it. But this one you can make with any Tupperware or any plastic container. Hi Laurie, welcome to Bunny's Designs. So this is a live stream recorded for Ustream.tv and also for YouTube for people to watch at their leisure. I've primed with quite cheap old gesso because this is just a practice run. I've primed a cheap canvas that is not particularly precious. If you want to use a Stay Wet palette, for goodness sake, don't go buy one. You could do it with a plate. You could do it with an ice cream box, any food container that has a little lid that just sits on top. And all you do is you have 2 layers of kitchen roll, and you wet it with water, and then you want um, greaseproof paper, baking parchment. When it's wet, it will stick. It will stick to the bottom. And you put your oils on here, on your acrylics, and you mix. And then when you've finished, you leave it like that, and you just put the lid on, and it would stay like that for 2 or 3 days. I've got one of these, and I think I did use this one. And I think my oils and acrylics stay for about a week, maybe 2 weeks. You get a lot longer because it's got the proper clippy, airtight seal around it. But you've got to be careful with mould if you're doing it that way. So I haven't quite decided what I want to do, because I do like the old way that I used to use it, and I think I'm going to do that actually. I think I might do that. So I'm going to leave, I'm not going to use this Alfie, that's naughty, unless I use a smaller one. Alfie! Oh, he's escaped. He's escaped. Oh, have a nice lunch. I think it's about 7. Yeah, it's 7:15 in the evening in the UK. Because there's not much of a mixing side, even though I could mix on here. And that's quite nice to hold though. I've got to think about where I'm going to put this when I'm at the other side painting. So that's another thing you've got to think about. What's going to be easiest? Do you need a palette that's going to sit on your thumb so you can hold it in your hand and paint? So there's lots of things to consider when you're thinking about mixing your colours. And I'd forgotten that. I'm just trying to think. So that I've got this to do, and then, as I say, you've got this way, which you just clip. If you need to use this in one of these because you can throw it away. And again, instead of buying those paper palettes, use greaseproof paper. It's exactly the same stuff. So they're quite expensive. Some of the Stay Wet palettes, not Stay Wet palettes. Sorry, the liners. Just use greaseproof paper or baking paper. You can see it's got like a bit of a grease on it. But if you use it over damp kitchen roll, you get a lovely dampness, and it just keeps everything nice and moist. So I've got to think about where I'm going to paint, so that's going to determine which palette that I use. And they come in rolls. I always have a roll. I have one for the kitchen, and then I have one that I have in the art room. And then if this drops on the floor, it goes in the art room. That's how everything moves in my house. So paintbrushes, as I said, I bought these because I haven't bought any bigger ones for ages. These are watercolour, acrylic and tempera. But I've also bought them because I can use them with my... I'm just looking at this, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. I can use them with my acrylic, my gouache. And that's one reason that I quite like them. So sometimes you can buy things for different reasons, but the bigger paintbrushes I will use for backgrounds and all sorts of other things as well. But some of them are cheap and cheerful. £1, 6 for £1 would do. You need a big one, a medium one and a small one. Not hog hair, not professional oil paint. You could just use an acrylic one. Even the kiddies set, I sometimes use the kiddies set, and now they've got some quite nice sets for a couple of pounds each. So I would only buy about 3, and then some cheaper ones so you can get a big good coating down. And then we're going to talk about the oil paints, but I'm just going to go see if this is it may have dried, because on a good day it doesn't take long, and then you want another couple of coats. I just want to put one more coat on to show you which direction, so bear with me 2 seconds. It's not quite dry, but that's not so bad considering it's England, because normally you can leave things out all day and things don't dry. So a few minutes more and it should dry. So this is my new tray that I've sorted out. Hi May, welcome to Bunny's Designs. Anybody else that's popping in? So let me just zoom in a bit there, and we can have a look in my clean, one of my clean drawers, which is quite good. And just jiggle that. So in here I've got. Now I was naughty because I've only got so much cerulean blue. So I bought two of those because I seem to have got two of everything else, but I use a lot of that blue. And they seem to have got a sap green, olive green, a purple, and a burnt umber. But in the artisan, I'm going to be painting with water soluble oils. And again, if you're not sure about what these are, do feel free to go and have a nosy at um, on YouTube. But I love these. I've been using these since for about nearly 30 years, so that I could paint. I found my new paint. I found my new one. So I could paint oil paint in the same room as my baby. So they're water based, so you don't need any nasty chemicals. And you normally get, I think you get a cadmium yellow and a lemon yellow. Do not tell me I do not have a yellow. Yes, I have a lemon yellow, a cadmium yellow, French ultramarine, cerulean blue. You normally get a phthalo green, and I think you get a brown. You get a cadmium red and an Elysian a permanent rose. No, you don't. You get Elysian crimson. This is the original set, and you get a black and a white. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8. I think you get 10 in a set, and they're about £20. And they are just like oil paints, except for you wash your brush out with soap and water, and that to me is fab. Now I made a mistake and bought all this impasto, this water mixable impasto medium, and I've got tons of it. No idea why. I think I originally thought this. I think I bought two of these, thinking it was cerulean blue. But but I really like that. There, at some point there's an Indian red. I think somebody bought me a bigger set. You can have zinc white, which is for mixing, and then you want permanent white, titanium white is for highlights, and that's normally more expensive. Then a lamp black, and there is actually a Payne's grey there, but maybe that came in a set because I do not buy Payne's. Ivory black and lamp black. And again, if you want to look at your blacks, I like to make my own, but they are in the set. But if you, I'm not sure what I'm going to be using. I think I'll probably use what I've got. Although I think I might do what I normally do. I think I'm going to stay with my Elysian Crimson, my Cadmium Red, and you can tell these are original, these are my old set. Cadmium Yellow, Lemon Yellow, Cerulean Blue, French Ultramarine, and I've got a white, Titanium White, and I've got a Raw Umber, and I've got my Phthalo Green, and there is a black there. I'm not sure if I'll use black, but I'll put lamp black in because it happens to be there. So I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and that's, I think, the original set. So you could use oils, you could use acrylics, you could use water mixable oils, but they're the 10 colours I'm going to use, so they're not going to break the bank. I'm not going to be using impasto. I've got quick dry medium from Duo, which is the Holbein. I think that was the Holbein. There's several different. I did a video of a little bit of history into these, so there are different makes, but I do like the Winsor Newton Artisan. It's the one I've used the most. So I've got some fatter brushes to get a background and also to get some colour down. If you're doing a huge painting, you need to start with these. Don't start with these. I think I'm going to keep these for my acrylics. So I've got some really cheap children's pound shop ones. I'm not going to play with these colours. I bought these, but I will not use those. I'm just going to use my original. I will be using mixables. If you're using acrylics, you don't want the little bottled ones. You want the what's called heavy bodied, which is student grade heavy bodied. Now I bought these for my daughter, but it's called heavy bodied. That's the better because you want to mix it. We're going to want to mix it to the consistency of double cream. So this acrylic will probably come out, although I've not tested it, the same as oil. It's probably a little bit looser, but we need to mix the oil paint with things. So acrylic dries quite quickly. Oils need something to them, but whether I use acrylic or whether I use oils or water mixable oils, I use the consistency of double cream, so it doesn't fall off your brush but it's not cloggy. So that was a little bit. So they're going to be my colours that I'm going to use, and I'll move my tray. So I've got half my trays in the house sorted. So we've got, if the colour wheel was right, obviously I start with my yellows, my cold yellow, and then my cad warm yellow, and then I have my cold red because that's going to make my oranges. I've got my alizarin crimson, then I've got my French ultramarine, so these two make purple. In fact, I should do it like this. I'll leave black and white out, and this is your colour wheel. We start with red at the top, so we'll start with red at the top. So basically, if you didn't have that one, so these would make your perfect green. These two would make your perfect, whoops, orange. A can do that. Now, I've never bought a purple before. It's the first purple I've ever bought in my life in Winsor Newton. And at the bottom would be green. So basically that's my colour wheel. So your cold blue and your cold yellow make your best greens. Your cold orange and your warm yellow make your best oranges. Your warm red, pinky red, and your purpley blue make your best purples. So I'm not actually going to use that one, and I'm not going to use that one, but I might leave that one in. I'll see how I feel, because it's in the set. But no, I'm not going to use that one. I'm going to mix every colour from my 6, because I think you can mix every colour on the planet with these, with very little work. And remember, if you want a duller purple, you use that blue and that red, and that's going to give you a very, very nasty, dark, dull, boring purple, but fantastic for shadows. If you want it a little bit lighter, you use that red and that blue, or you can use that blue and that red. So all those combinations are going to give you lots of different purples. The same with oranges. If you want a dull orange, use the furthest away of the primaries. If you want the brightest, do the middle. So again, you've got 4 paints, but you're going to have hundreds of different oranges. And the same with the greens. The brightest greens are the 2 next to each other. So that's the coldest yellow and the coldest blue. But if you want different greens, use different oranges and different blues. Sorry, different yellows and different blues. So I did 630, I think I got 630 from 6 colours, from 3 colours actually. Because you can make that one with those 2 colours, you can make that one with those 2 colours, and you can make that one with those 2 colours. So you can do that, and that's what your printer has. But French ultramarine is very difficult to make, so that makes your purples a lot better, that makes your oranges a lot better, you don't have to mess about, and that makes it's a bit easier. So 6 colours is the best, and then we'll throw in black and white, and there is a brown. But I might leave the green out. I think I might leave the green out. I might just have a think about that, because these are secondary colours. We might have a vote on that and see what happens. So I'm just going to pop this back, but I think I'm going to stick with these colours because I like them. So has anybody got any questions? Oh, hi Claudia, anybody else popping in? Welcome to Bunny's Designs. So in the set, I think you definitely get those in the set. But as I say, I think I might actually think about mixing mine from the 2 primaries of each colour. And there's black and white in there. So to make a raw umber, to make a nice brown, although if you mix these 2 together you'll get Payne's grey. So again, I might leave that one in purely because it's actually in there. I think I might do that, because I think these are in the set, because you can see they're all used. So that's my original set. I don't apologise, Claudia. Thanks for stopping by. So that's my prep. Now I've got some plastic knives, and this one's, I tried to open something with it, which wasn't a good idea. So I found a new little one. Always a good idea to mix um, is to mix with a palette knife because you save your brushes and you can get a real good mixture going. I will be using, and I don't know what I've done with them, which is very strange. I'll be using stand oil and I'll be using, oh dear me, I just have to find it, 2 seconds. It's totally not prepared today at all. So while I was doing my degree, I bought these two big ones here. So I think I've got some though. There's linseed oil, water mixable linseed oil. So I've got two of those. Fast dry medium, and that's what we need because that means we can play at one side of our painting, and by the time we get to the other, we can keep going. Fast dry medium. Um, That's the wrong one. Little jam jars are fantastic if you want to mix two together. Now, I can't remember what I mixed. And this one is stand oil, and that's oil painting medium. So I'm going to have a look through because I can't remember what they do. The oil painting medium, I think, is for fine detail work. Improves flow and wetting. Dries slowly to a flexible film. So this what kind of waters it down, but it makes it dry slower. This is this medium makes it dry quicker, and this is an oil again for flow. So what I normally do is do a mixture of stand oil, and there's a mixable thinner as well, and I've lost it. There's a diluted thinner. So I normally mix these two together when I'm mixing. So that means they're going to be liquid down with the oil for flow. You can't use too much because it's pigment, remember, but they're very well pigmented. And then I've got my fast dry medium in there, so that's why a palette knife can kind of really get all that mixed up, because you do not want any of this not mixed when it gets on your canvas, because otherwise half of it will be dry and half won't. Just have a very quick look for the dilute stuff that I don't know where it is. Oh, I won't be using it because I can't find it. But basically, if you were using this is English distilled turpentine. You can now get odorless terps. If you're using ordinary oils, you would use ordinary fast dry medium, and you would be using ordinary stand oil and ordinary terps or low odor mineral spirit. Can't find the other one. So I won't be using that. I can't find it, but it looks like water, but it isn't. But I won't be using water. I just start with a damp brush, but I'll be using these two mixed together. So I'm going to get my flow. So my it's going to be almost like double cream. It's going to be like almost like single cream. It's just going to really give me some really nice fine detail, and it's going to have its fast dry medium mixed in there as well. So mix these two together first in a little pot, and then instead of having it's very similar to having a water pot. I never touched you. Alfie just crunched. Never touched you, darling. So with your brush, you dip into here as you're mixing, as you would dip into water if you were doing it with acrylics, uh, or water, or watercolors. But you just dip into this mixture. But I will mix that on the day. Um, I like little water pots. They should be clean, because again, this is just a practice. I'll probably wipe that out with something or other. It probably isn't anything particularly nasty in there. It's definitely not jam. um, Lots of kitchen rolls also a good thing. You don't need any oily rags unless you are working with oils. If you're working with oils, then you would. Um, so I've got my little pot. In fact, I could actually, if I can get the top off. It is very old, this. I'm going to stand that upside down. So that's stand oil. And stand oil is, I find, a little bit better than linseed. Everybody's seen linseed oil for using. I just prefer, I can't remember why I got to it, but I just prefer. Oh, I know why. This is gloss, and it increases gloss and transparency, and I think that one just does kind of. So I'm going to leave that upside down, and then I'm going to put some mix. There's some you can't mix together and some you can. But the best thing to do is to go on their website. But the linseed oil is wonderful stuff. It's just, I think I've over when I was doing my degree, I ended up not liking the oil painting medium. Aids fine detail work, unless I used that with that, and then that was on its own. I can't remember now. Dry slowly. I know I did actually mix it. I know I mixed one. I mixed a slow and a fast together, which was rather strange. So that's what I should be using. I won't be using the water mixable. But again, it's just a practice. I've got to practice with these. I haven't used them for 5 years. It's a long time, so I'm hoping it's a bit like a bicycle. You don't forget. So I'm just going to go ask hubby to come out and. Oh, I might have to open this for me to see if I've left it in the sun, so it should be drying quite nicely. I can't get the lid off there, but I will be putting fast dry medium in here. So if you do change anything, it's a good idea to label it. And of course, I'm changing my drawers and my. Oh, I've put my hand on a pen. I don't have to do that one. So this one has now got stand oil in it, but it's water mixable. Stand oil. Put H2O, I shall know what I mean. So it's a good idea to label it so we know what's on there. Have we got any questions? So I need to move these and go get my. Just move that very carefully. And I've made a big space on my desk so that I can fill it. Put those to one side. Oops. Give me 2 seconds. So you definitely need the fast dry medium if you want to keep up. But as I say, there's no reason why you can't pause the video or stop it. Just ask hubby for that. So, and again, it feels like oil. It's just you can wash your brushes out But do not mix terps with anything. You don't need to mix anything with them. You can do, but you don't need to at all. So I've got the paints, I've got the mixing palette knives, I've got my mixable solutions, I've got some big brushes, and then I've got some cheaper, smaller brushes on the other side. I just move those across. Is it dry? Thank you. Oh, look at that. It's dried really nice, that. So there's still a few marks on it, but again, you know, it's a practice. It's completely dry and it looks quite even. So what we need to do now is put another coat on it. Now you can put as many as you want. Sometimes, and it feels a little bit cold, but it's fine. And it was very, very thin, and it's gone on quite even, so I'm quite pleased with that. It already had a coating on it. It was a bought one, cheap, nasty canvas, very thin. It's only a little thin one. It's not an expensive one. And it obviously was sprayed with like some kind of plastic because the water, it didn't like the water. So you want a wet brush. Now you don't need this time to wet and cover the entire canvas with water, because we've already got that nice coating on there. But what I'm going to try and do is and I've just got a very cheap 60p brush, and the gesso's in my so there's no point washing all of it out, it's just been sat in water. So I'm going to take my really cheap, nasty, very stinky, because it's gone off, but it'll do the job. You could scrape it on and scrape it across if you wanted. I mean, and you can get some nice effects like that if you really wanted. I'm normally not that clever, so I'm going to try and get that to kind of squish about a bit. And because it's old, there's bits in it, and so you can pick these off if you want to when you get a nice finish. You can put as many coats as you want. The cheaper the brushes, the more hairs you've got to pick off, so it's up to you how you do it. And probably just going to actually probably very carefully scrape that across. Sorry about the noise. So what you can do is you can do 2 coats or 3 coats, 4 or 5. You can sand in between the coats if you really need to. If you feel you really want to do that, you can sand between the coats and get a really fine. But if you really want that fine, what you may as well do is, I'm just having a spot of bother, I put too much on there too quickly. What you can do is use chipboard, hardboard as we say in the UK, and you can prime that, and that will give you a very fine a very slick finish. So most artists will do it on canvas, and they will then start sanding and then applying and sanding. Again, this is really cheap and nasty, so I'm having to work harder than I would normally. But you want a good coating, but you don't want it on thick if you can help it, which I'm not doing very well, but never mind. This is a practice. So I ended up putting it that way around. If you finish horizontally with your brush strokes for your first coat, you want to go across with your second coat. And I should not have worn a black top to do this with. So it's my fault. The brush I've chosen doesn't actually fit in the pot. so so it's very slapdash because it's a practice. Thank you, darling. So no, thank you, darling. I'm just a bit busy, darling. Thank you. So I just want to get. You do want a good even coat, and if you've got any bits, now is the time to take them off, because now in the middle of this one, because it's the bigger they are, the bigger boards. It's not that big, this board, but it does give it does have a piece of wood down the middle, so you can actually hold your board, so that's quite good. I'm not doing the edges. I don't want to do the edges. I could have watered the gesso down a bit, but it's already cheapy stuff anyway, so. But there are a lot of videos about how to gesso a canvas, and I bought one as well, so you can choose. Sometimes you don't have to, you can just start painting on top, it's fine. If you see, if I'd have known it was this much work, I probably wouldn't have done it, but I wanted to show that, you know, you can do them yourself. And I'm making a complete pig's ear of this. So the best thing to do is to watch a YouTube artist doing it, because I'm getting some, and I'm also working on my desk, which I don't really want to do, but so it's just like decorating. The cheaper your brushes, the more hairs you've got to pick off them, which is a bit of a pest, I have to say. It's a pest. But it's just like decorating as well. That's why my daughter's just made a beautiful job of all the work she's just done, because it's preparation. If you have any bumps or any lumps, or you think, oh, it doesn't matter, just slap it on, you can spend hours on your painting, but it will never be perfect because you've not done the work underneath. So it's always a good idea to try to get a good finish on the back as you can. I can't really see on that side. If you're on a canvas, there's always, probably, I'm just going to turn it round so I can see it this side. Yeah, I've missed a lot at this side, an awful lot at this side. So bear with me 2 seconds if you've got any questions. I'm just trying to. Oopsie. So you do need to get in all those little squares of colour. Squares of canvas. Just if I just pan out a bit, you can see probably better what I'm doing. I think I should have watered it down a bit. Looks a little bit thick. To say the least, but I did actually ask my daughter to do this, but she's busy, and you've got to be fairly able-bodied to do this. You need a good coating. But never panic, because if it doesn't work, you can just keep going over the top and sand off any lumps. I personally will not be sanding, but if it was really bad, I'm sure somebody would do it for me. So I'm quite happy with that. You can't get that way, darling, sorry. Oh dear. It's never going to be nice because it's a cheap and nasty canvas, but we can get it the best it's going to be. And this is just a practice. I'm just going to poke that because it's just once. Right, bear with me 2 seconds. Oh no, please don't move that. It's all set. Has anybody got any questions? So it's not too bad. It's not too bad if you don't put your wires on it. Oh, I've just missed a little bit up there. Just a bit there. Because I'd like to get this coat as near as perfect as I can. So 3 coats if you really feel you have to. But again, this is already done, but it's going to give me a really nice... And again, if you've got any lumps, now is the time to pick them out, although you can sand them off. So it's not so bad. And I'm going to pop that outside on the shed roof to dry. And I'll wash my hands and I shall be back in a second. So as you can see, it's not too bad. I don't know if I can get the camera up there. Oh, it's going to flash out because of course it's white. But it's not too bad. It's got an even coat, so that's what we want. Just wash my hands because I'm covered in gesso. Yep, you should definitely not do it. I'm only going to do 2 coats because I'm going to get it everywhere. You should definitely not do it on your best desk, and definitely not. You definitely should not do that. I'm just going to put these straight in my little water pot, and I've got it on my desk. Don't think gesso likes desks. Good idea to do it outside. I think it's probably a better idea to do it outside. Just looking for my baby wipes. I think if I'm very lucky. My secret supply. My secret supply of baby wipes. So has anybody got any questions? But please do go watch lots of YouTubers that prime canvases, because that was really very bad. It was just, this is what I've got to use and this is what I'm using up, and hopefully it will do as a practice. It's exactly the same way, May, for oils, acrylics. But if you've got acrylics, for goodness sake, don't go buying oils. Use acrylics. I'm going to be using them in the same consistency, um, and I would think. I mean, acrylics aren't that quick to dry. You know, they are quick drying, but I mean that's why they were invented. They were invented because people couldn't spend 3 days waiting for a painting to dry. When I did my oil painting, I could only paint on it almost once a week, and that drove everybody insane because they kind of frowned upon me because I was using these water-based ones, um, and we had to pay. I think it was 75 or 80 pounds. I think it was a term actually, or was it a year? I think it was a year. Still a lot of money, and I used every single thing of my own almost, apart from a bit of canvas. But in the end, I didn't have any help with the canvases, so I used instead of using all the college's oil paints and acrylics like everybody else. The last year I used water-based oils, and they all thought I was crazy. But it meant that I could start at one end, and with the fast drying medium, I could be still going on the other end. But acrylics, I think, were first invented because of oil paints taking so long. So that's sorted out. Oops, a primed canvas. But as I say, please do feel free to watch lots of YouTube channels about priming, or look at a book. I think I've nearly got all that away. Um, but I do like the idea of these water mixables because they are quite easy to use. So I shall be using that one and that one, and a distilled one, but I can't find it. I just can't put my hand on it, and I don't know where I've put it. Oh, would you imagine? I've got lots of these little pots, so I'm going to be using these little pots. Zoom in a bit. Oops, wrong way. So I'll probably be putting my black and white on my palette. I normally have my palette like that, but I might actually put my white at that end. So it's called lights to darks, but if you take out those, that's the colour wheel, because when you get to a very, very pale lemony green, you get to a yellow green here, so that technically is a colour wheel. But traditionally I think it's called from light to dark when you're talking about the colours on a palette. So that's what I'll be doing, and then I will be having a couple of little pots. Instead of a water pot, I will be having a water pot to clean the brushes, but for dipping in, as you would do um, your oil and your fast dry medium for traditional oils, I will be using these things here, which I've put in here. So have you got any questions? So I'm going to be mixing with the palette knives, and I'll be using a stay wet palette. And you can use baby wipes as well, which is quite good. So that's my end of my prep for my first paint along. Thank you for watching.